What if I told you there was a way to live in Mexico forever without getting a permanent residency? No lawyers, no paperwork, no runarounds. Well, that sounds too good to be true, doesn't it? But let me tell you, thousands of people are doing this. And there's a catch though, so you got to be careful. If you do it wrong, you will be banned from Mexico forever. And nobody wants that. So in this video, let me show you how to do this without breaking any rules. If you want to stay in Mexico indefinitely, there's a few ways to do it that doesn't involve residency or permanent residency. There's a few kind of loopholes that you can use legally. Let me tell you what they are. Number one is a tourist visa. For most countries, you can stay up to 180 days with this visa. Some people constantly exit the country and just come back the next day to renew the 180 days. People will tell you that this is on the discretion of the immigration officer, but most likely they'll give it to you unless you're doing something fishy. And usually they just stamp your passport and let you in. Now, the immigration officers are starting to, crack down on those people that are constantly doing this. And it might not be the best idea for you, but it is an option. And I basically did this throughout 2024 before I got my permanent residency because I had a child in Mexico. Number two is temporary residency without full commitment. You can apply for this residency, and it's based on financial solvency, which means you need enough money to live in Mexico. There's a certain amount of money that you need to live here, or a job offer from a company, usually a Mexican company. So you need to get a job offer from a Mexican company, and you could stay here as long as you work here, or through family ties, which means you have some sort of connection to a Mexican citizen in your family. Number three is student visas. There's a little trick with student visas where you can be a perpetual student learning Spanish in Mexico. Student visas are very easy to get. They're probably the easiest visas to get, and they're probably easier than residency visas or work visas. The only problem with this is that you have to have enough money to live. You can't work on a student visa, but you can stay in Mexico longer than a tourist visa and doing the tourist visa shuffle. I mean, the tourist visa shuffle isn't fun. You gotta constantly leave, like I said, and maybe a student visa is better if you can financially support yourself. Number four is the digital nomad workaround. Mexico doesn't have this digital nomad visas that many other countries do. I did a video on this. It's not exactly on this, but it's about places that it's easy to move for expats and digital nomads. So check it out because a lot of the places do have a digital nomad visa. Now, the difference between this and a tourist visa, there isn't really much of a difference. You also need to leave. You live here on a tourist visa, but you also need to leave every 6 months. But the problem is if you stay here longer than 183 days, I think it's 183 days, you will end up having to pay taxes in Mexico. So be careful with that. A lot of expats live here without paying taxes, and that's not a good thing to do because if you do get caught, you can be in a lot of trouble. But a lot of expats say that they stay here for a long term, years, without paying taxes, and they never get caught, which is a no-no. Don't do that. So stay here maybe just in 6 months at a time and go back home or go to different countries if you can afford it. Number five is marriage or family sponsorship. This is my category. I got my residency because my child was born in Mexico. So I got my Mexican residency through my child. You can also marry a Mexican citizen. There's a little bit more paperwork to do and proof that you are living together and you're actually married to that person to stay in Mexico and get your residency. Getting it through a child was a lot easier. They gave it to me the same day. They just, asked me a few questions on the paperwork. I gave them my information and they gave me the card that same day. So it's pretty crazy. And if you get married, you get a temporary residency card. So there's a process. You get the temporary residency card and then you get the permanent residency card after a few years. I think it's like 4 years. You get a permanent residency card after 4 years. You have to actually prove that you and your spouse are together. Number six is to invest into Mexico or start a business here. Actually, opening a business in Mexico could help you get residency or a visa at least. And you can also qualify by investing into stocks and real estate in Mexico. There's a certain level that you have to invest in Mexico. So you can look it up online. It's easy to find and you could live here because of it. So there's risk of doing some of these things. I mentioned earlier the tourist denial. You can get denied from coming back into Mexico. Now, if you have a life here, if you have a spouse here or a girlfriend or boyfriend here, or even animals and a house, a rental, you could leave a lot of responsibility behind and not be able to come back into the country. It could be a big deal. And overstaying in Mexico, you can get fined or deported. And the fines aren't tiny. So be careful of that. And don't work in Mexico. Don't make Mexican wages if you're not legally allowed to work here. And at the same time, if you need to pay taxes, if you stay over 183 days in Mexico, you need to pay taxes. So pay them. Now, I know all of these aren't how you can stay in Mexico long term without a residency. Some of them are residencies, but this turned into more of a quick tutorial on how to stay long term in Mexico. I didn't really plan it that way, but it turned out that way. And if you've been watching this video for this long, you might be someone that's interested in moving here. I just created a Discord community on helping people find information on how to move to Mexico and everything they need to know. If you're interested, just type Mexico in the comments and I'll be adding more information in this Discord as time goes on. And hopefully others that join could help too. I want to make it a good community where you don't have to worry about paying for anything, being sold anything. That's not going to happen. And if you are one of those people interested, I have a lot of videos about moving to Mexico, like this one, how Americans are safer in Mexico than they are back home. Click on it and I'll see you there. Thanks for watching.